All right. Let me open up. I do want to talk about a couple things. I had a really good conversation with Josh this morning. It got me thinking about 2020 and as we turn the year, and my history being full time here. And I say this all the time. I always say this to people. The best thing about Primerica is you set your own schedule, you're your own boss, you make your own hours. The worst thing about Primerica is you're your own boss, you set your own schedule, you make your own hours. And I had a conversation with Josh, and I want to ask you the same questions that we were talking about, that we were discussing. I know none of you would do this, okay? But if you had a normal financial advisor job, and I hired Chelsea and I brought her into Morgan Stanley or Merrill Lynch, and she got her licenses, and I'm the office director or whoever it is, I'm the boss of that office. And I say, Chelsea, here's your work schedule. And here's a list. And, we're going to give you a draw of, $500 a week. And after 12 months, we're going to see where you are. And if you can't cut it, we're going to let you go. That's just the nature of our business. And you have to make calls from this list, and you have to make 75 calls every single day. Or else, if you can't even do that, we've got to let you go even before the 12-month trial period. And I want you to ask yourself, okay, for you, you don't have to answer it. You don't have to answer the chat. It's just a personal question. If you had that boss above you, kind of tyrannically leading you, do you think you'd be further ahead than you are right now? If you had the fear of being fired or having a $500 a week salary or draw taken away from you, would you be further along? Now, look, I know that it's a very hypothetical question, because many of you would not get involved with this company if it was a job, if it was financial services and a job, even the income potential. And I'm not talking about the backstory of our company, the noble cause, the crusade, cash value versus term, sales management, ownership, overrides. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about you winning full time. That's all I'm talking about. Because for me, this was the hardest thing in the world for me. The hardest thing, figuring out my daily routine. And I did a training on this when we met in person on Friday. If you don't groove a routine, you can never actually get better, because you're not doing the same thing. See, like if you're Facebook prospecting, you will get better at it. You'll know who to message. You'll find out, you'll do a little due diligence. You'll know what times to message. You'll learn a follow-up to the message. You'll learn all that stuff. Me, I'm a caller. So I have learned how to make phone calls. I know how to talk to people. I know how to explain our opportunity. I know how to close people. I know how to follow up with them. I know how to send text messages. I also talk to other callers. Like I pick Bow's brain a lot because she makes calls. So I always ask her, hey, what did you do? What did you say? What about this? Because people prospect different ways. I don't ask them that because that's not what I do personally. But because I do the same things, I can implement the adjustments and changes because I do the same thing every day. And I get better at it. It allows me to groove something. See, if every day you wake up, and we talk about this all the time because I don't want you to repeat 2021 as 2020. Now, look, a lot of you've had successful years. You've gotten your licenses. You've developed a few clients. You've earned a promotion. You've hired people. You've gotten somebody licensed. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you reaching your potential and getting the job done. And that means becoming great at your daily routine. And again, I want to say this. That doesn't mean your daily routine has to be color-coded, right? I see a lot of people's schedule and I'm in awe. I admire it. Like, wow, that's a really good schedule from morning till night. And, I think probably my wife does stuff like that because, she's a little bit more hands-on with the kids and feeding and knows, what Zoom classes and tutoring they have and all that stuff. So she's got to know it all. Me, I'm a little bit more simple, right? For me, for my business, I just have that block. That first thing that I have to do, because if I can tackle that first thing and I can win that morning, it's all downhill. Great things happen for me. I feel better. I feel more confident. And me personally, right? Like, I talk to Hai about this a lot. Like, I always want to feel good. I always want to feel good. Okay. Now I want to do it in a healthy way, right? I'm not going to put stuff in my body. I'm not going to do stuff to make myself feel good. I always want to feel good. So I know if I can conquer my day, I'll feel good about myself. If I wake up behind, I feel guilty. Okay. And two things I'm terrible with. I don't know if you guys are good with this or not. Guilt and shame. Just hate those things, right? Hate those things, right? My kids, they don't have guilt. They're guilt-free and they're shameless, right? They'll come in. My daughter will come in. She'll show it all, right? She don't care, right? That's not me. I'm shameful and I feel very guilty. I really do. It probably unhealthy. So I always want to feel good. So I just do things that make me feel good. If I read, I feel good. If I hit my goals, I feel good. If I hit my daily activity. But if I wake up strong, I feel great. If I put good things in my body, if I eat right, I feel better. I mean it. I was reading something the other day. They said, if you don't eat right and you don't sleep right and you don't eat on time, your brain psychologically craves high calorie foods, which is sugar. Same thing with this business. If you don't do the right things, you'll crave like the dopamine, which is like YouTube and Facebook and social media, because it gives you this rush, right? Like, one thing for me, like Twitter and the comments is just the funniest thing in the world. I'm like, man, the internet is just the greatest thing. It's undefeated, man. I mean, I look at people, I'm like, and then I'll look at some of these profiles on Twitter. I'm like, this person has one follower, but literally the greatest comment in the world. I'm like, man, this comment is great. This GIF is great. This meme is great. But it's candy. It's all it is. It's high calorie stuff. It doesn't help me bring me to my goals. It makes me laugh for a minute. And when I start looking at the internet, when I'm not busy, when I don't have my day plan, or when I'm coming from behind. Your mission every single day is to groove your routine and find out that one block. I talk with Peter and Tia and Hai, and we did a call. And I said, look, you can start as small as you want. I don't care what it is. If it's making 10 calls a day, 20 calls a day, if it's booking 2 people a day, I don't care what it is, but you got to stick with it. And you can never miss a freaking day. You start small, but you got to do it. And that's where you develop the confidence. That's where you develop the skills. That's that foundational piece that I talk about. Because look, this isn't Morgan Stanley. I'm not going to fire you. I probably should, but I was a terrible employee, the worst employee ever. All those stories you hear about bad employees, coworkers that you work with, that was me. But even worse than an employee, I'm a worse boss. I'm a worse boss. Like this virtual office, it's not even really for you. It's more for me. I mean it. If it was just for you, I wouldn't do it. It's for me. I got to get up. I got to get out of bed. I got to get in front of the computer. I got to get my list ready. I got a couple things to do, and I got to block that first hour. If you can pretend that this is a job, doesn't have to be a full-time job, and you can pretend metaphorically that you got that fire under your butt, a gun to your head, a ticking time bomb, that if you don't do the work, you just got to do your activity, great things are going to happen for you. You know, a guy, and I'm going to leave with this and then we'll get to work. A guy that I grew up admiring in our business, good friend of mine, his name was Mario Munoz. And he came in and he had a lot of success right away, unlike a lot of people. I said, man, how did you have so much success right away? Early on, he made $100,000 a year as a regional leader, not even a senior regional leader, a regional leader. And he said, you know, I worked for UPS. I said, oh, were you a delivery guy? He goes, no, I worked in the warehouse and I was a package processor. You know, I handled the packages. And I said, oh, okay. He goes, yeah. So what would happen is the video camera was on the entire time watching us. And you had to process 60 packages. And I'm going to botch it, okay? But say 60 packages an hour. And you know, but you also had to do 10 a minute. Every minute you had to do 10 packages. He goes, and randomly throughout the day, they would check the camera and they time you for a minute and see if you did those 10. You didn't know which minute it was though. And they would, and he goes, and if they took 3 minutes a day and they would do it, and if you didn't have it and you didn't do those 10, you got written up. And if you got written up a lot, you got demoted or fired. He goes, so the crazy thing is you always had to work because you never knew which minute. It wasn't like, oh, when the boss comes in, we know we got to work hard because they're looking at us. No, the camera was always on and you didn't know which minute it was. It's not like, hey, right, like right here, we know the camera's on you for 1 hour. But after that, the camera's not on you. We don't know. The camera was always on UPS, and he credited that to his success. You got to work this like a job, a fearful job. You got to play very scared and be very paranoid, not unhealthily, not negative, but you got to play scared. You can't be comfortable. And if you can develop that, whatever it is, 20 calls a day, and you run that play every day and run it like your life depended on it, you will be free. You know, Thomas is here. Thomas and I are very close. He knows when I was not an RVP. A lot of you guys, you only know me as an RVP. He knows when I was a division leader and a regional leader and I got promoted to RVP. He remembers our office. He knows when I lived, you know, yeah, I have a house, I have a pool, I have all these, but he knows when I lived in my mom's basement. He knows when I was making part-time income. See, you guys know me as an RVP, an SVP, an NSD. That's not always been the case, man. But you got to figure that out. That is your mission every day. What's my foundational piece going to be? What can I run? Then you grow upon that. What's my routine? Don't wake up in the morning with a mystery. And you figure that out. It could be sending messages. It could be making phone calls. It could be calling resumes. It could be LinkedIn. It could be Meetup. It could be Facebook. I don't care what it is, but you got to do it. And you do it every day till the job gets done. Don't repeat the same mistakes that you did, okay? Do not do that. Let's have a great Tuesday. Work really hard and be super productive. All right, let's get to work.